16. So chapter 16 covers heparin administration. And heparin is basically an anticoagulant that comes from cow lungs and pig intestines. And what heparin allows us to do is prevent basically clotting in different areas of the body. And heparin is a common medication that you'll see being administered to patients. Now, heparin can be administered subcutaneously or under the skin. It can also be given IV in some situations. So the calculations that we'll do this week have to do with obviously heparin, and it's given in or it's measured in units. So we'll be calculating, how many maybe units per hour or how many milliliters per hour based on the number of units that's assigned. And so we're going to it's not too complicated. We're just going to use some of those dimensional analysis techniques that we've already learned how to do to calculate each of these. Now you see in some of these calculations, they say they've ordered UH or LMWH. So UH is unfractionated heparin, and LMWH is low molecular weight heparin. So both of those can be administered subcutaneously. Low molecular weight heparin is almost exclusively subcutaneously. It can be given IV under certain circumstances, the enoxaparin type. It's not given orally. So you'll see the unfractionated and low molecular weight heparin in these two types of heparin. So the first example on 321 deals with calculating subcutaneous doses of UH and LMWH. So we're giving these dosages under the skin as an injection. So example 1, a provider orders UH 5,000 units subcutaneously every 12 hours. The pharmacy provides a 10 milliliter vial of UH with a concentration of 5,000 units per milliliter. So how many milliliters per dose should the nurse draw into the syringe? And we want to round our answer to the nearest 100th milliliter. So I did notice on the midterm, some of you are still not necessarily rounding to the correct place every time. So please make sure you round to the correct place. So this one is the hundredths. Okay, so we want to set up the equation using dimensional analysis. What are we solving for? Milliliters. Okay. I'm starting with milliliters. I don't know if you can see that, Maria. Let me get black.
I can see it.
You can see, okay. So milliliters equals. So we know we want to start with milliliters on the top. And what's the given quantity related to milliliters? We have 1 milliliter, and in that 1 milliliter, there's 5,000 units. Okay. So I want milliliters on top, but I don't want units, so I'm going to cancel that out. Or am I? Okay. Okay. And then they say what? Okay, 5,000 per dose. So we're going to give 5,000 units. That cancels out units. And what's my answer? 5,000 divided by 5,000 equals 1. So if I have to round to the nearest hundredth, how do I do that? Yeah, I don't, since it comes out to a whole number, I don't have to worry about rounding, okay?
Rounded 3 for a week on that test.
Did it?
I don't know why.
And we can review that if we need to.
I can go just to high school, rounding for dummies.
I know a few people, I think maybe one or, I want to say two, where it says to round to the whole number. Some of you are still wanting to round to the tens. Like if it was 5,218, you would want to round it to 5,002, I forgot what I said already, 5,220 instead of, if you're, say that was, or say this was the answer, 5,218.5, and you're supposed to round to the whole number. This is the whole number. The ones is the whole number. So you would round, you're rounding to the whole number right here.
Would that be 9 then?
Yes. It would be 5219. Some of you, for whatever reason, want to round and say 5220. They want that to be a 0 on the end for some reason. I don't know why, but stress. Yes.
Make it whole.
I understand that. I understand stress and anxiety. Okay, let's go to example 2 on 322. A provider orders UH 8,000 units subcutaneously every 8 hours. The pharmacy provides UH in a 1 milliliter vial with a concentration of 10,000 units per milliliter. How many milliliters per dose should the nurse draw into the syringe? Round the answer to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so we're going to start with milliliters. What do they give us about milliliters? Our concentration is 10,000 units per 1 milliliter. Right? So then, what do I know about units to cancel those out? They ordered 8,000 of the UH. That cancels units out. So I've got 8,000 on top, 10,000 on bottom. Okay, what's 8,000 divided by 10,000? 0.8. So it tells me to round to the hundredth. The hundredth doesn't exist. It's a 0, so we just leave it 0.8. We don't add the 0 because we don't want a trailing 0, right? Okay. Example 3. So far so good. Does this seem fairly simple? It's what we've already seen, only we're using units instead of like a milligram, right? Fairly straightforward. Okay. Provider, example 3, provider orders 10 Heparin, 16,000 IU. An IU is an international unit. It's just another way we measure medicine. Subcutaneously once daily. It's supplied in a 2 milliliter multi-dose vial containing 20,000 international units per milliliter. So how many mils per dose should the nurse draw into the syringe? So they told us we have 20,000 international units in 1 milliliter, right?
Oh, number 3, right?
Example 3?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? Not that one. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so what do I have available? I have the 1 milliliter containing 20,000 units, but I want to give How much? 16,000 international units. Okay, so that cancels out my IUs. And I've got 16,000 divided by 20,000. What does that come out to be? 0.8 again. There's nothing in that hundredth spot, so I don't need to round anything. Now the next example throws some additional information into us. Example 4, the provider orders enoxaparin 1 milligram per kilogram subcutaneous daily, every 12 hours. The patient weighs 70 kilograms. Pharmacy provides the medicine in a 3 milliliter vial containing 300 milligrams. How many milliliters per dose should the nurse draw into the syringe and round to the hundredth? Okay, so we know we're looking for how many milliliters that we're going to administer in that syringe. Okay, so they tell us that we have a 3 milliliter vial, right? So what's contained within that 3 milliliter vial for a concentration? 300 milligrams. And then I know that I want to cancel out milligrams. What does it tell us about milligrams? Our order is 1 milligram per kilogram, right? Now, I've canceled out my milligrams. I've got milliliters on top, kilograms on bottom. So I want to cancel out those kilograms. Does it give us kilograms? The patient weighs 70 kilograms. Okay, so I've canceled out kilograms. I've got milliliters on top, so my problem is set up correctly. So I've got 3 times 1 times 70 over 300. So 3 times 70 is 210 divided by 300. What does that come out to be? 0.7. So once again, we don't have that hundredth place to round it to. It's just 0.7. At least we finally got a different answer besides 0.8. Okay, any questions so far? They should be very similar to the weight-based problems and then the simple dosages that we did before.
It's like the dimensional analysis is doing, it's the same.
It's the same thing. I mean, we should be able to throw any problem at you and you should be able to solve it. So your probably hardest things you're going to have to deal with is rounding and making sure that there's not any information in the problem that you don't need.
Nothing.
Maybe.
And I automatically, when we want to make milligrams and milliliters, that's another conversion factor, and it messes me up. So we don't have to do that because milligrams is the same question.
Yes.
Jeez. Well, at least I figured that out.
Yes, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I think I did that on my test because I got some answers that were like,
Yeah,
cannot be right.
Yeah.
It's not a reasonable answer.
And if you know that, I mean, it's a good thing that you recognize that. So
what the reasonable answer was.
right, try to get to that point. So yeah, just we're going to continue setting up our problems until we cancel everything out. But what we want left with, and then solve our math. Okay, so I think the next one was the same, isn't it? Yeah, it looks the same. So let's move forward and go over IV administration.
Example 5 has you looking for units, not milliliters.
Oh, okay, we'll do 5. We'll do 5.
I'm looking at it.
Okay, example 5. So this one we're solving for, no, IU.
This is how many,
On page 323, a provider orders Heparin 120 IUs per kilogram subcutaneously once daily. The patient weighs 62.5 kilograms. The pharmacy provides the medicine in pre-filled syringes with concentrations of 5,000 international units per 0.2 milliliters, 7,500 IUs per 0.3 milliliters, or 10,000 IUs per 0.4 milliliters. How many milliliters of the medicine should the nurse administer? Okay, so that's our first. How many mils should the nurse administer? Round the answer to the nearest hundredth, and which pre-filled syringe would the nurse select?
so it says syringe we're solving for.
Well,
Because to me, it says how many milliliters, I'm immediately figuring milliliters.
You are, but then it's giving you these preset syringes, which one to hit based on the.
Yeah, so it's kind of a two-part answer.
yes. So number 1, it says set up the equation using dimensional analysis, inserting the prescribed weight-based dosage of the medicine as the first set of given quantities. Insert the next given quantity, the patient's weight, and solve the equation. Okay, so your order is 120 units per, IUs per kilogram. Okay. And the patient weighs how many kilograms? So I've canceled out my kilos. 120 times 62.5 is, well, there it is, 7,500. And the pre-filled syringes come in those different concentrations. So since you have one of those pre-filled syringes in the exact amount that you need, that pre-filled syringe is 7,500 IUs per 0.3 milliliters. Okay. So since it comes in that exact strength, this is how much you're going to get. Does that make sense?
So the final answer is the syringe.
Yes, is 0.3 milliliters.
That's my final answer. Okay, that's what they're asking me to answer. Right.
It is. So this one's a little trickier. But what would happen if they only had the 10,000 international unit in 4.4 mil syringe? How would we figure out how much to give? Okay. So let's pretend this syringe didn't exist. And so this is how much you're going to give right here. Okay. So now we need to figure out how many milliliters would we administer using one of those pre-filled syringes, okay? So say we only had 10,000 IUs in 4 milliliters available, okay? Okay, so this is what we have available. This is what we want to give. This is what we have available. So we're only using these two sets of information. How many milliliters am I going to give to administer that 7,500 IUs? Okay. How many milliliters do we have? We have 0.4, and we have 10,000 IUs in that 0.4. But we want to give 7,500 IUs. Okay. So 0.4 times 7,500 is 3,000 divided by 10,000. Point three. It's this. It came out to be the same concentration, but you won't know that unless you calculate it.
At least it answered it.
So say you went to the medicine drawer and that 7,500 per 0.3 mil syringe was out, pharmacy was out of them, then you could actually use that other syringe as long as you knew how much to give.
We just draw up. So would it,
You would just waste, it's a pre-filled syringe, so you would just waste it down to that 0.3. Okay. Do we feel good about that so far? Maybe.
Yeah, I'd love if we could just stop on that and be good. But I know it won't matter.
Well, honestly, I say, it's going to get a little complicated at the end, but it's going to be not too complicated.
It's just a longer list from the steps we put in and what chances I'm totally messed up.
Well, and that's true. That's true. That's real life. That's why you're here. So we'll learn, hopefully, to reduce those errors. Okay, IV UH administration on 324. Calculating intermittent bolus doses of heparin. A bolus dose is like a large dose in a short amount of time. That's kind of what a bolus means. So example 1, provider orders a heparin bolus of 80 units per kilogram intravenously prior to initiating a continuous infusion. The patient weighs 56 kilograms. The pharmacy provides heparin in a concentration of 5,000 units per milliliter in a 10 milliliter vial. How many milliliters of heparin should the nurse draw up in the syringe and round the answer to the nearest 10th milliliter?
we tried to find it, okay.
Yeah. You try it on your
You know
own?
how to do this, right?
You should know how to do this, yes. So 324, example 1, cover up the answers and try to figure this out on your own. See if you can get the step by step. I already touched mine. You have your phone?
No, I keep my phone in my car so I don't break.
Good job. That way when you get into nursing school, it won't be an issue, will it?
Right.
All right. You got it right? Awesome.
I'm always afraid I'm gonna get it right. It's gonna be one of those, you used the wrong equation, but somehow got the right answer on it. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh, I did. That's what I did. Yes.
That was Gabby, right?
Not sure how I did it, but I did it.
Okay, we good?
Mhm.
All right. So did most of you get the right answer?
Mhm.
Yes, awesome. So I'm done today, right?
Hey, this is as good as it gets, yeah.
I said I'm done. They got the right answer, Maria. I'm just kidding. Okay, so what you did with that one is they're solving for milliliters. So you take the concentration, right? That 1 milliliter per 5,000 units. And then next you want to insert the units per kilogram. That way you'll cancel out that units. And then to cancel out the kilogram, then you will add the patient's weight of 56 kilograms. So you should have 1 milliliter over 5,000 units times 80 units over a kilogram times 56 kilograms. So you'll get 4,480 on top divided by 5,000 on the bottom is 0.896. It told us to round to the nearest tenth. So that 9 in the 100 spots makes us round to 0.9. The 8 turns into a 9. Okay. So example, let's skip down. Example, let's do example 3. Provider orders heparin bolus of 3,500 units. The pharmacy provides heparin in a concentration of 1,000 units per mil in a 10 milliliter vial. How many milliliters should the nurse draw into the syringe? Okay, should be a simple calculation like we're used to. We're solving for milliliters. What's our concentration?
It is 1,000 units per 1 ml.
Okay.
1 ml per 1,000 units.
Okay, and then how many units are we going to give?
7,000.
7.
3,500.
Oh, 3,500, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong one.
Okay, so we canceled that units, got mils on top, so we're set up complete, right? So our answer is 3.5 mils, rounded to the 10th. It's already done for us. You still feel confident? Yeah, going good so far.
This one's, I'm okay with it. I just know it's eating limited.
It's going to get a little complicated, but not horrible, not horrible. So what they talk about next is heparin protocol. Hospitals have standing orders for heparin protocols, and the protocol is basically a set of orders to tell you how to adjust the patient's medication if this happens or if that happens. Okay, so it says the protocol should specify the following information: the lab test needed prior to starting the heparin therapy, bolus or loading dose of heparin to administer prior, and the infusion rate, the type and frequency of lab testing during the infusion. Because, we talked about what heparin is, and it's the anticoagulant. So if our patient has too much heparin in their system, excuse me, then they have an increased risk of bleeding. If they don't have enough heparin, then they're going to be clotting. So we do the lab test to determine how much of the medication is in their system and how their blood is clotting, how quickly it's clotting. And so we'll use those lab values to adjust the medication accordingly. So if you look on 326, that's just a sample of a heparin protocol. It's a weight-based heparin protocol. And so it'll tell you, the list of things you have to do before the patient gets that medicine, all the check boxes. And then their PTT results, if they're this, then how do you adjust their bolus? Do you potentially stop the infusion? And then how to change the rate of infusion? Yes.
So is this the same, because we would have to check their, like, especially when they're on chemo, we'd have to check their R&R, PTI&R.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would adjust either warfarin or Xarelto.
Mm-hmm.
And is that kind of the same?
Yes.
Because they would, and they would change the dosage all
Yes.
the time.
Yes. Same but
Okay.
different.
Okay.
So if they went from 59 years old to 60 years old, it switches up.
No, that's not age. That is the clotting time
Oh,
in seconds.
of course it's not, like they're gonna be 200, sorry.
Right.
Well,
Well, when they check the
Yeah.
INR, they're checking, when they check your INR, they're checking to see how quickly your blood will clot. pretty much.
Mhm. Now, and it's a different test because it's different medicine. But
Oh,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so calculating milliliters per hour flow rates on the bottom of 327. This is more of the same. It's same problems you've already done in just a different context because we've already calculated basic milliliters per hour, right? So example 1 on 327, a provider orders a continuous heparin infusion to begin at 15 units per kilogram per hour. The patient weighs 82 kilograms. The pharmacy supplies heparin in a pre-mixed bag of 25,000 units in 250 milliliters D5 solution. Calculate the milliliter per hour flow rate and round to the nearest tenth, okay? So milliliters per hour is what I'm solving for. Okay. So what do we have that's related to milliliters? We have 250 milliliters. And contained in that 250 milliliters, what do we have? 25,000 units of medicine. Okay, I want to cancel out units, so let's put it on top next. What do we know about units? The order is for 15 units per kilogram per hour. Okay, so I got rid of units. Now I want to get rid of kilograms, right? How many kilograms does our patient weigh? Okay. I want to keep hours on the bottom, and I've got milliliters on top. So is our problem set up correctly? I think so. So I've got 250 times 15 times 82 divided by 25,000. So what's 250 times 15 times 82?
307,500.
Divided by 25,000 is 26.4 milliliters per hour.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, I need to get on.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, because I read the wrong line. Sorry. I was cheating in the book and read the wrong example.
It's 12.3.
It does. 12.3, right?
Yeah.
12.3. I was just making sure you guys were awake.
Mm.
Making sure you're paying attention, right? Did I get the other part right? Yes. Second guess myself. You're going to tell me, keep me on my toes. Okay. So this is what we're used to already, right? Example 5. Yes. So let's skip to example 5. Since we should be old hats at this by now, right? Okay. Here, they're giving us the patient's weight in pounds instead of kilograms. Same exact problem, we've just got a little sidestep thrown in there, right? So we're still solving for milliliters per hour. Example 5, top of 329. Provider orders a continuous heparin infusion to begin at 16 units per kilogram per hour. The patient weighs 154 pounds. The pharmacy supplies heparin in a pre-mixed bag of 25,000 units in 250 milliliters. Calculate the milliliter per hour flow rate and round to the nearest tenth. Okay? So what do I know about my concentration of mils? I've got 250 milliliters. And contained in it, I have the 25,000. Okay. Now, what do I have ordered to cancel out my units? 16 units per kilogram per hour. So I've canceled out units, mils on top, kilograms and hours on bottom. I want to get rid of kilograms. What do I know about kilograms? They give us the patient's weight in pounds, so I know I'm going to have to put a conversion factor in here. How many pounds is the patient? 154. That cancels out pounds. I've got hours on the bottom, milliliters on the top. Everything else is canceled out, so I know I'm set up correctly. So you should have 250 times 16 times 1 times 154 all over 25,000 times 2.2. So did we get 616,000 on top? So 616,000 divided by 55,000 is 11.2 milliliters per hour. They wanted us rounded to the nearest tenth. My final answer was already in the tenths, so we don't have to do anything else. Okay, moving right along. Calculating units per hour flow rates. You guys should breeze through this one too. So nurses need to be able to calculate the units per hour flow rate for IV heparin as well as the milliliter per hour flow rate. So example 1, it says we're going to have 2 pieces of information that's necessary: current milliliter per hour flow rate and the concentration of heparin in the IV bag. So example 1, 329, nurse is verifying the dosage of a heparin infusion. The IV pump is infusing at 9.7 milliliters per hour. The infusion bag hanging has 40,000 units of heparin in 500 milliliters of D5 solution. Calculate the units per hour flow rate to the nearest whole unit. So we're looking for units over hours. So what do we know about units? We've got 40,000 of them, right? And what is it contained in? Mm-hmm. 500 milliliters, okay? Do I know anything else about milliliters to get it canceled out? It's infusing at 9.7 milliliters per hour. That gets rid of milliliters. I've got units on top. hours on bottom. What else do I need in there? That's it. I've got everything canceled out. So like units on top, hours on bottom, that's what I'm solving for. So 40,000 times 9.7 all over 500. And then what is our final answer? 776 units per hour. So even if you don't know what jargon they're talking about in these examples, these scenarios about verifying orders and trying to make, they're looking at the IV pump and it's running at 9.7 milliliters per hour, and you need to know how many units per hour that is. Even though you might not be able to visualize it and kind of picture that scenario, if you can solve units per hour, you're golden. Do I need to do more, or does that make sense? Same things we've been doing, only solving units per hour instead of milliliters per hour. So now let's jump to the difficult part that's not so difficult. It's just more challenging because we've not done it before. Page 330. And we're looking at the middle of the page, adjusting heparin flow rates. So remember we talked about with those heparin protocols, sometimes we might have to adjust the amount of heparin that the patient is getting. So we need to know how to calculate how much to increase or decrease based on that chart. So if we're adjusting units per hour flow rates, increasing or decreasing heparin flow rate when the pump is infusing in units per hour requires adding or subtracting the prescribed dosage change to the current rate. So example 1, a patient has a continuous heparin infusion running at 800 units an hour. According to the protocol, the infusion should be increased by 100 units per hour. So what new flow rate in units per hour are we going to set the pump for? It's currently running at 800. I need to increase it by 100. What am I going to set the pump at?
900 units per hour.
900 units per hour. Simple as that.
Is the question really gonna tell
So
us?
basically you just,
800 plus 100 is 900.
Is the question really gonna tell us every time increase by or decrease by?
It should. Yeah. In real life, you're going to have to go back to that protocol and figure it out. But in these problems, it will tell you.
There's no
You just add.
conversion.
No, it's simple. So it's too simple.
It is a little.
A little too simple for some of you. You're looking for the bigger, bigger calculations.
Not that I wanna make it more complicated, but I kinda wish it was set up in a way where you just gave us a sheet that showed us, like you would in the hospital where it says this is what your rates are gonna be based on your results.
Yeah.
And then the question was like, the results are this, how do we adjust rate?
Yeah.
can we do number 3?
Number 3?
Mhm.
Yep, we're going to get there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. So let's do example 2, just for confirmation. Patient has continuous infusion running at 623 units an hour. According to the protocol, the heparin infusion should be decreased by 200 units an hour. So we're running at 623. We want to decrease it by 200. So 623 minus that 200 would be 423. And it even tells you there, if you read the problem, in this example, the flow rate needs to be decreased, subtract the prescribed decrease, 200 from the current flow rate. So we're going to move to example 3, adjusting milliliter per hour flow rates. And you might have noticed these alerts, the red alerts throughout the chapter. as with insulin, heparin needs to be double checked with another nurse. So any adjustments that you make or initiations of infusions and, injections, you would always double check that with another nurse. So adjusting flow rate, milliliters per hour, the top of 331, changing the heparin dose when the IV pump is infusing in milliliters per hour requires additional information. So we need the concentration of the bag, the current flow rate, and the prescribed increase of heparin. And it's usually in units per hour. So example 3, a patient has a continuous heparin infusion running at 12.3 milliliters per hour. According to the hospital's heparin protocol, the heparin infusion should increase by 200 units per hour. So what we have running is in milliliters per hour, but the increase they're telling us is in units per hour, so we can't simply just add them together, okay? The current heparin bag hanging contains 25,000 units in 500 milliliters of 5% dextrose. The IV pump should be programmed to what new flow rate in milliliters per hour? So first, calculate the milliliter per hour flow rate change needed to increase the current unit per hour flow rate by 200 units per hour. So the milliliter per hour rate increase, it says we need the concentration and the current flow rate, right? In mils or units per hour. So the current, we're looking for mils per hour increase. So we want to start with mils, and that concentration is what? 500 mils. And in those 500 mils, we have 25,000 units, right? Now I want mils on top, hours on bottom, so I need to cancel out my units. And what do I have available? It's going to increase by 200 units per hour. Okay, I got units canceled, mils on top, hours on bottom, that's right. So 500 times 2,000 would be, right, divided by 25,000.
Is it like 200? Oh, sorry, I thought you said 2,000. Sorry.
So that should equal 4. So we're going to increase by 4 milliliters per hour. What is our current flow rate in milliliters per hour?
12.3.
Current. And then increase is 4. Add those together. And you would adjust the flow rate to be 16.3 milliliters per hour.
It seems really simple now.
It does. It does. So I know some of you are hesitant to meet online, but if, during the week, if you're doing your homework, give me a call or email me. I'm pretty sure this week I should be in my office most of the week, and I don't mind sitting down with you. I've got a document camera in my office like this, and we can work out problems. I can show them on the screen. And it's just like, not just like, but kind of like being face to face, because you'll be able to see me work out problems a little better than probably you can see on the board, and we can see each other's face. Like I'm talking to Maria right now, and it's not the same as being face to face, but it's the next best thing. So if you do get caught up, I don't mind, even if it's just 1 or 2 problems you want to work out. I don't mind hooking up with you on Google Meet and and try to work some of those out. And if it works to where I could come over here, then I don't mind coming over here too to meet you guys. So just let me know. I don't mind.
Yeah, after tutoring, I didn't actually need to sit in front of you, but when you said, when we meet online, I was like, oh, no, you need to see how I'm doing it.
But it
Could have seen the rest.
well, but it is what it is. I mean, I was available to, I was able to come that day, so it worked out fine, but, but the other day I wasn't. So, it just varies, and you never know what's going to pop up on my schedule because I'm running in 5 different directions all the time. But do what? What'd you say? Did you say something?
I understand that
Oh.
completely.
Yeah, you're a busy person too, so you definitely know. Okay. So let's do a few more. There's just one more example on here. And this is a flow rate decrease in example 4. And then we'll do maybe 1 or 2 where it doesn't give us the worked out problems to see if we can do them on the fly. Okay. Example 4 on 331. Patient has a continuous heparin infusion running at 9.6 milliliters per hour. According to the hospital's heparin protocol, the heparin infusion should be decreased by 100 units per hour. The current heparin bag hanging contains 40,000 units in 500 milliliters. The IV pump should be programmed to what new flow rate in mils per hour? So once again, we're solving for a mils per hour, but we're trying to figure out, based on the concentration we have, how many of those units, how many mils that would be. So this time we're doing a decrease, right? Okay, so starting with mils, what's my concentration? Example 4, I've got 40,000 units in 500 mils. And then what else about units do we know? Okay, 100 units an hour. Okay, that's set up properly. So 500 times 100 divided by 40,000 is what?
1.3.
1.3?
No, 1.25, sorry.
Okay, so the answer was really 1.25.
Yeah.
We're supposed to round to the 10th, and so that would be 1.3. Okay. So what is our current rate that we're infusing? 9.6 minus what we got, the 1.3. So 6 minus 3 is 3, 9 minus 1 is 8. So we should be getting our rate changed to 8.3 milliliters per hour. So in the first 2 examples, when we started adjusting those flow rates, we were talking both units per hour. We're giving the patient this many units per hour, and we're decreasing this many units per hour. And so in this case, they're saying, well, you're giving this many mils per hour, but we need to decrease this many units per hour. So we had to figure out how many mils per hour that would be based on the concentration. So that's why it's a little trickier. Okay, let's look on 332 and see if we can find some examples. Yeah, let's look. 7 and 8 are all you have to do. Their infusion is at units per hour, and they're telling us to decrease at units per hour. So all we have to do is subtract or add. So the 9 and the 10 problems on 332 are the ones that we actually have to do these 2-step problems, okay? So number 9 on page 332, Patient has a continuous heparin infusion running at 17.3 milliliters per hour. According to the protocol, the heparin should be decreased by 200 units per hour. The current bag hanging has 25,000 units and 500 milliliters of dextrose. So we're looking for milliliter per hour, right? So what do what's my concentration?
7.3 per hour. Or 17, I'm sorry.
Okay, per what? No, that's not what we want. Yeah, it is.
It says 17 point.
Yeah, you want 25.
I want concentration.
Oh, gotcha,
500 or 25,000.
500 to 25,000, I'm sorry.
Yes, 525,000. Okay, and then what? We're I'm looking at the wrong problem. Number 9, we are decreasing it by 200 units an hour, right? So 500 times 200 divided by 25,000. So what does that make it? 500 times 200. So I'm going to decrease that rate by 4 milliliters per hour. So my starting rate was what? 17.3. And I'm going to decrease it by 4 milliliters per hour. So 17.3 minus 4 is 13.3 milliliters per hour. That would be our new rate. Did we get the right answer?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And then number 10 is an increase. So we need to solve for the milliliter per hour increase. The patient has the continuous infusion running at 14.4 milliliters per hour. According to the protocol, it should be increased by 100 units per hour. The current bag contains 40,000 units in 500 milliliters. So 500 milliliters and 40,000 units. My concentration is 100 units. My increase, 100 units per hour. We got mils on top, hours on bottom. We're getting the same answers, it seems. So we've got once again 1.25. Did it say to round to the 10th? Nearest 10th. This is the 10th spot, so we would round it to 1.3 milliliters per hour. So what rate did we start with?
14.4.
14.4 milliliters per hour is what we started with. And we're increasing it, right? So we're increasing it by 1.3 milliliters per hour. So your new rate would be 15.7 milliliters per hour. Okay, any questions so far? That it concludes all the new material. Do you have any questions, Maria?
No.
Okay. If you'll notice on this week's homework assignment, there's an old video of Miss T up there that you can review. I'll have this video posted in the announcements as soon as it's done processing, so it might take a couple hours sometimes, but I'll have that uploaded by the end of the day. And then also, if you notice at the homework, on the homework assignment page, there's also some additional problems that are worked out from previous semesters. They're that we've done on the board, and they are from problems in your book from the homework, like the post-test and stuff. So you can look over those as well if you want some more problems to reference by, okay? Any other things? All right, I'll see you guys next week. Go ahead.
Do you have the video for last week?
They are posted with the homework if you look at those. And then
Okay.
if we need to meet over videos later this week, we can do that as well.
Thank you, Mrs.
You're
Wilson.
welcome. You're welcome. I hope you're feeling better, and I'm going to stop recording now, okay?